Words are not just sounds. They are reflections of your character, windows into your mind, and the bridges between you and the world. The Stoics believe that the way you speak is the way you live, because speech is never just about communication. It is about discipline, self-respect, and mastery of the self. When you speak like the man you would admire, you begin to embody the very virtues you respect in others. Think about the people you look up to. They do not waste words. They do not shout to prove themselves. They do not gossip to feel powerful. Instead, their words carry weight, calmness, and truth. To speak like the man you would admire is to cultivate restraint, clarity, and purpose in every sentence. Epictetus reminded us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This simple wisdom tells us that admirable men are not those who dominate every conversation, but those who know when to remain silent, when to listen, and when to speak with precision. If you want to elevate your presence in any room, stop talking to fill silence, and start talking only when your words have value. Silence creates respect because it shows control, and when you finally speak, people listen. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Apply this to speech. Waste no more time pretending to be wise with empty words. Instead, choose to be wise by letting your words reflect virtue. When you gossip, complain, or argue, you reveal insecurity. When you speak calmly, truthfully, and with intention, you reveal strength. A man you would admire never lowers himself to pettiness. He does not need to prove himself with noise. His speech is measured, thoughtful, and rooted in principle, and that is why others listen to him. Ask yourself, if someone recorded every word you spoke today and played it back tonight, would you admire the man who spoke those words? Would you respect his tone, his discipline, his clarity? Or would you see someone careless, reactive, or bitter? Every day, your speech builds your reputation. Every sentence either adds to your strength or subtracts from it. The Stoics knew that controlling your tongue is one of the hardest but most powerful forms of self-mastery. Seneca said, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." The same is true for your words. Not how many you speak, but how meaningful they are. When you cut away excess speech, you cut away weakness. You begin to sound like someone who commands himself, and therefore commands respect. Speech, when used with wisdom, has the power to heal, to guide, to inspire. But when misused, it can destroy your image, your relationships, and your inner peace. That is why Stoicism teaches us to guard the tongue as we would guard our honor. Words cannot be taken back once spoken. They leave echoes in the hearts of others. To speak like the man you would admire, imagine before speaking that your words will echo forever. Would you still say them? Would you speak with anger, or would you choose calmness? Would you insult, or would you remain silent? Would you exaggerate, or would you speak only truth? The admired man always chooses truth, calmness, and restraint. This does not mean he is weak or passive. On the contrary, it means he is powerful enough to choose his words carefully instead of being a slave to impulse. Many people speak quickly because they fear silence, or they feel the need to fill space with noise. But admirable men know that silence is not empty. Silence is full of control, confidence, and authority. Think about great leaders, philosophers, or mentors you admire. Their words matter because they are not wasted. When they speak, they do so with purpose, and that purpose is clear to all who listen. The Stoics would tell us that every man carries the responsibility of his words, and that to live with virtue, your speech must be aligned with your character. If you want to be respected, then speak with respect. If you want to be trusted, then speak truthfully. If you want to be admired, then speak with discipline. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. To live in such a way that your words and actions are inseparable from the virtues you claim to uphold. Now ask yourself, how does the man you admire speak? He does not shout in anger when provoked. He does not boast endlessly about his success. He does not spread rumors to feel superior. He does not complain about every small discomfort. Instead, he chooses silence over nonsense, clarity over confusion, and humility over arrogance. He speaks with a tone that calms a room, not one that inflames it. He listens more than he talks. And when he does speak, his words are precise, like arrows hitting their mark. This is the model of speech you must train yourself to follow. The Stoics believe that self-control begins with self-observation. So start observing yourself. Notice the words you use when you are stressed, when you are angry, when you are around friends, or when you are alone. Notice how quickly your mouth runs ahead of your mind. Then discipline yourself to pause. Breathe. Ask, what would the man I admire say in this moment? Over time, this simple practice transforms your speech from reactive to deliberate, from careless to powerful. And with that change, people begin to see you differently. They begin to respect you, to trust you, to listen to you, because your words are no longer cheap. They carry value. To speak like the man you would admire is also to know when to withhold speech. Not every thought needs to be voiced. Not every insult deserves a reply. Not every opinion needs to be shared. Wisdom is not in saying everything you think. Wisdom is in choosing what is worth saying. The admired man knows that words can trap as much as they can free. Gossip, for instance, traps you in smallness. Complaining traps you in weakness. Empty boasting traps you in insecurity. But silence frees you, because silence cannot be used against you. Seneca warned that it is better to be silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. The admired man never wastes words on matters beneath him. He rises above pettiness, and his speech reflects his focus on higher things. In practice, this means you train yourself to speak less but mean more. Instead of reacting with anger, you respond with calmness. Instead of complaining about circumstances, you state facts and focus on solutions. Instead of gossiping about others, you speak of ideas, values, and actions. In this way, your speech builds you into the kind of man others look up to. Finally, the Stoics teach us that the voice you project outward is a mirror of the voice you cultivate inward. If your inner dialogue is weak, bitter, or scattered, your outer speech will reflect that. But if your inner dialogue is disciplined, clear, and purposeful, your outer speech will follow. That is why Marcus Aurelius constantly wrote reminders to himself. His meditations were not for the world. They were for his own inner voice. He disciplined his thoughts so his actions and speech would follow. You must do the same. The man you admire does not only speak well to others. He speaks well to himself. He does not tear himself down with doubt, but he builds himself with discipline. He does not lie to himself, but he faces truth with courage. He does not waste words, even in thought, but focuses on what matters. When you discipline your inner voice, your outer speech naturally transforms. You no longer speak like the crowd. You speak like the man who rises above it. And that is the beginning of becoming the man you would admire.